Greetings, and welcome back to Cril Inspires. I am your host, your author, your podcast interview expert, Cril. Thank you for coming back to the channel. If this is your first time, welcome here. I said I was going to do a lot more videos, and I'm trying to stick to it because I have a lot of value to offer in the field of creating a successful interview podcast. So, the topic I want to talk about today is the importance of researching your podcast guests. This is very, very important. If you want to do an exceptional interview, if you want your interview that you do with your guests to sound like something that not only your guests will like, but your audience will love, then research is going to be very important. The reason why research is important is because when you think about all of the really good interview podcasts out there or really good interview based shows, they have two things in common. They're either very well researched or they have a prior knowledge about the guests that everyone else doesn't have, right? Maybe they are a celebrity just like the celebrity guests. And they can talk about things that celebrities in that field would know, right? It makes for an interesting interview in that sense because the interview reveals exclusive things that people would be interested in but just are not privy to ask about, right? Or to share in the interview. So that's one reason. Now, that's the far and few, right? Because it's not a lot of celebrities in the full population of podcasts, right? There's definitely a lot of celebrity podcasters out there, but in regards to all of the podcasts that exist, most of them are not like by celebrities. It's only a select few we know, right? So what's going to apply more for the everyday podcaster or the podcaster that's not that known is how well they research their guests, right? So for me, I'm known to do interviews with music artists, hip hop and soul artists. So for me, a lot of my interviews is based on my research of the guests and also my understanding of their body of work, right? A lot of times I'll do interviews and I'll focus or hone in on their music, right? Maybe they put out a new album 2 weeks ago, and a lot of my focus will be on that album. But the reason why I'm able to have a successful interview is because I sat and took the time to study the album, which is also a form of research, right? You're studying their music, right? You're studying everything that they talk about in their music. You're taking the time to go research their history, right? And you're asking questions based on what you find that that resonates with you in terms of what you want to ask. So research, I know it may sound like second nature that, oh yeah, research, yeah, we should definitely be doing that. But I can't tell you how many people just jump in front of the mic and they just think that they could wing it. You know, sometimes those interviews go well, but just think about when you get yourself into a situation where the interview doesn't flow as well. The one thing that's going to be able to save you is the research, right? Because what the research does is it gives you a backbone, it gives you a foundation, it gives you a palette of things that you can talk about, right? Should the interview end up going sour, or end up going should the interview end up going bland, right? Like it feels like it's really monotone and you see that the guest doesn't have much interest in answering your questions. When you do research, you can pull from the research, which will intrigue the guest even more and make for a much more interesting conversation, right? You have to remember that guests, especially the popular guests, they get a lot of interviews. So if you come to them with the same generic questions, that usually generic questions come as a result of the the host not doing research, right? So if you come not prepared by doing your research, then you're going to naturally just give off a bunch of generic questions. And as a result of the generic questions, your guest may not be too excited about the interview. He may still give you the interview and answer your questions, but it's not going to make for interesting conversation, right? But I'm going to tell you from my experience, the guests usually really, really appreciate when you do your research. It's real simple. Do your research and you'll have a great interview. You know, I mean, of course, you have to present yourself professionally. You have to show up on time. You know, you have to not cut your guests off. All of those things are important. But from a foundation standpoint, research is going to put you in a way more smoother seat of conducting the interview. All right. So, but it takes time to do research, right? So that's why you have to allot time to do your research. Don't wait to 2 hours before the interview to do your research and put the interview together. I've done it before, actually, a number of times, but it's never a good practice because you run into other challenges that may come up, and you run the chance of starting your show late. So always set aside time to research. I say do it at least prior to the day of the interview, so that when the day of the interview comes, you can just iron out the nuts and bolts of how you want the questions to be structured, and you can go straight for the interview. The other thing about doing research is that it puts some of the information and the questions that you want to ask at the forefront of your mind, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where you're not even able to write out your interview questions and you're just kind of thrown in to interview someone on an impromptu level, you know, at least the research will be the backbone, right? It'll be the foundation. Should you not have your questions planned out, you can just go from memory off of the research, right? Now, I'm not telling you that you should do it this way. Always plan, have your questions structured out with the research that you've done. But if you find yourself in a situation where you didn't get a chance to write out your questions and it's like last minute, you'll still stand a better chance doing a successful interview if you have the research already done. All right. So I'm not going to stay long for this video. I just wanted to share why research is important in being able to create a successful interview and to have a really good conversation with your guests. When you keep it unique and you keep the research there, you'll always make for a good interview. All right. So thank you again for tuning in. As I said, I'm going to try to do more videos, put out more videos regularly. And I also want to mention, as I said in my last video and the video before that, that I am now available for consultations and I'm doing coaching, virtual coaching. So if you are someone that feels like you need a little bit more help with getting your interview podcast off the ground, you need advice on how to develop your podcast the right way, how to achieve success as a podcast interviewer, I am here to support you. You can book a discovery session with me where I will listen clearly to whatever your challenges are currently as a podcaster, and I will offer advice and suggestions on the next best steps you can take to reach your desired goal and to create and develop a successful interview podcast. So, if that is of benefit to you, you feel like that session would be of benefit for you, you would definitely have my undivided attention and my expertise over the 13 years of doing successful interview podcasts. Thank y'all again for tuning in. If you are new to the channel and you're not subscribed and you like what you're hearing, definitely feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it if you think someone else out there could learn from it. And I'll catch y'all on the next video. Thank you again for tuning in to Cril Inspires, where you get insight and valuable information on how to create a successful interview podcast. Talk to y'all later. Take it easy. Later.